Hey guys, it's James from the Lore Masters. We are back again with our next review video, and this time we are going through all of the Sapphire cards. So there's 34, like the previous ones. So how it works is, we go through each individual card, I tell you whether it's good, tell you whether it's bad, tell you whether it's usable, tell you whether it's not. So, let's begin. So we'll put on the foil, there we go. Right, so 4-drop Uninkable Aerial, she's a 3/3. With 1 lore point, and whenever you play an item you may ready this character. So not so usable at the moment, however I feel that once there becomes a loop where you can bounce your item cards with Befuddle, or there's a way of playing lots of 0 cost items, she may be useful in the future. But unfortunately whenever she comes down now, your opponent will just immediately aim removal at her, so you generally only get 1 or 2 quests before unfortunately she gets destroyed. So at the moment she isn't particularly good, but watch this space because she may be very good in the future. So you've got 4-drop Aurora, she's inkable, she's 2/5 with 1 lore point, and her ability is when you play this character, chosen character gets -2 attack this turn. It's not bad, it's a princess as well, so you can use it in a princess deck. However, it's not worth using. You could in theory use this to shift onto the 5-drop Aurora. But if you're really wanting to kind of give minus attack to your opponent, you can just use the Scar that's in Sapphire. But other than being a princess, she hasn't got much relevance. Speaking of 5-drop Aurora, here you are, Dreaming Guardian. So she's a 5-drop inkable with 3 attack and 5 toughness with shift 3, 2 lore points, and reads, your other characters gain ward. What's quite important with this one is she can still be targeted herself with things, so you ideally need 2 of these on the board to protect your whole board. So a lot of the times you'll find she isn't very worth it, because even if your opponent can only target her, you're still losing a 5-cost character from your board. Plus her stats aren't particularly high as well, so she generally gets run over by things that are her same cost, so it's very difficult to quest with her. She is useful to shift into on turn 3, which things your 5-drop songs online, so things like Grab Your Sword, things like Let It Go, all become active if you've got the 2-drop Aurora to shift onto. This card may get better in the future, but at the moment it's not seeing a tremendous amount of play. Speaking of 2-drop Aurora, here she is. So you pair it with the Dreaming Guardian, so you can make it on turn 3. This card has 2 lore points as well, so that's quite high for a 2-drop. But yeah, she's primarily in the deck to shift onto. People generally use her in Sapphire, Amber, Stitch as well, because she's a 2-drop, and you can use the Aurora Dreaming Guardian to protect your Stitch as well. And she's a princess, so she works in the Princess Tribal deck. So you got Belle, Inventive Engineer, so she's a 3-drop, 2/3. Whenever this character quests, you may pay 1 less ink for the next item you play this turn. Can be used in a Tamatoa item deck to get some of the items down a little bit cheaper. It's worth 2 lore points as well for a 3-drop. Its stats aren't wonderful, so chances are it'll probably only get 1 quest before it gets defeated. But it is a princess as well, so if you did want it to slot it into Princess Tribal, you can as well. Just obviously play a few items to make it worthwhile. Legendary Belle. So 4-drop inkable 2/4 with the ability Read a Book. During your turn you may put an additional card from your hand into your inkwell face down. So that's good. That's pretty good as well, because you get to ramp your ink up nice and quickly. And then my favourite part, while you have 10 or more cards in your inkwell, this character gains +4 lore points. This card is insane. It's probably going to be one of the most chased after cards in the first set. Having played it myself in Steel Sapphire, I know how crazy this card is with A Whole New World, because you get to empty your hand by inking it all, play A Whole New World, get a fresh 7, and kind of pop off from there. There's been a game where I've controlled 3 of these on board and quested for 15 in 1 turn. Absolutely bonkers card. If you're going to be playing Sapphire, you're going to be needing 4 copies of this card. So 7-drop Chief Tui, 3 attack, 6 toughness with support. He's got 3 lore points. It's nothing particularly special about this card. His stat line isn't bad, but and the fact he's got 3 lore points as well is pretty good, but he's not worth playing 7 for. You could honestly play Hades with that 7 ink, and it's a much stronger card, so I think you can probably just skip this one. Donald Duck 5-drop, so he's 4 attack, 3 toughness with ward and 2 lore points. Very good if you're facing a deck against lots of removal. However, there is lots of rush things that would just be able to get this guy off the board really easy. So things like Rafiki or even the new Ruby Peter Pan can get rid of him. Annoyingly, you can use the Ruby Maui to run over this card and the Maui would still live. So unfortunately it's not worth playing in that regard. You'd never be able to kind of quest with this card safely. And everybody's favourite 1-drop Flounder. So it's 2/2 with 1 lore point. Again, every colour has one of these. They're nothing special. And Flounder, everyone loves Flounder. Okay, so Grandma Tala, or as I like to call her, Rampmar. Whenever this character is banished, you may put this card into your Inkwell face down and exerted. We didn't know about this card until the full set got revealed, so we just thought the ramp package consisted of 1 jump ahead and also Mickey Mouse Detective. Not the case. This card is very good. You play this on turn 2 and you follow it with a turn 3 1 jump ahead using this card to sing. And then if you've got Mickey Mouse Detective, you can play that as well. So you ramp yourself up to, I believe that's 4, and then if she dies, you then get ramped up to 5. So your opponent generally doesn't want to attack it. The reason why this card is so good to play on turn 2, to use as a target for 1 jump ahead, is I used to use the 2-drop Aurora on turn 2 and hoped it would survive so I could use it to sing 1 jump ahead, but it always got hit by removal such as Fire the Cannons. Your opponent cannot do this with this card because they actually just set the card off and essentially waste to Fire the Cannons. So very, very a good card to use 1 jump ahead with, but even if you don't have 1 jump ahead, she's good because you can just crash it into your opponent's stuff or just quest for a few turns and your opponent will eventually kill it. But yeah, and just ramp yourself by 1. Hades, again, one of my favourite cards in the set. So it's the other blue legendary. Is a 7-drop uninkable 3/6 with 2 lore points. And the ability, when you play this character, you may put chosen opposing character into its player's Inkwell face down. So this is a let it go on a body. Its stat line is not too bad. It's not huge for a 7-drop, but it's decent enough. But yeah, very, very good that you can develop your board and get rid of your opponent's best threat into their Inkwell. Obviously bearing in mind, if you do put a shifted character into their Inkwell, both cards that are on it go into there, so you do ramp them by 2. But very handy to ramp up to late game and just get rid of your opponent's biggest threat and develop as well. Yeah, love it. So 3-drop Jasmine, she's a 3/3 with 2 lore points. She's a princess, so she fits into that deck, but she also shifts into the 5-drop Jasmine. This is the only Jasmine in the game that you can shift with, so if you are using 5-drop Jasmine, you haven't got much of a choice. But this is just one of the 3 drops with 3/3 and 2 lore points, the same as there is in every colour except Ruby. Speaking of 5-drop Jasmine, here she is. So she has Shift 3, she's a 2/5 and 2 lore points. Whenever you play this character and whenever she quests, you may remove up to 2 damage from each of your characters. She is a princess as well, so she does work in the Princess Tribal deck as well. I have, from what I've seen when people use her, it hasn't been terrific, because a lot of the time when you're kind of fighting your opponent's characters, you either just flat out remove them or you defeat them in 1 hit. You don't generally kind of spread damage over a few turns, which is what this card would be good at. The only way it would be useful is if you were using Jasmine and you attacked into with something else, then you played Jasmine or quested with her and then healed it. Relying on your opponent to damage your stuff is probably not going to work. So yeah, you're the one who's going to have to damage your own stuff and then heal it afterwards. Maleficent 4-drop, she's a 3 attack, 4 toughness with 2 lore points. There's nothing particularly special about this. A lot of colours have got this stat line and this lore points, so there's nothing particularly special about this one. So 5-drop Maleficent Uninvited, so she's got 3 power and 6 toughness and 3 lore points. I really like this card. The only reason that I've took it out of my Steel Sapphire lists is because of Ruby Maui. Unfortunately, it runs over this card a little bit too easy, because the Maui's still left with a good couple of points of health left after it runs over it. But other than that, I think it's a very solid card, 3 lore points with a very decent stat line. So it's very good if you want to play a kind of budget ramp deck. I recommend grabbing a couple of copies of this because it comes in the Steel Sapphire starter deck. I believe you get 1 or 2 copies. So yeah, it's a good place to start off with. So then you got Maurice, world famous inventor. So he's a 6-drop, he's 2/7, with the ability to give it a try. Whenever this character quests, you pay 2 less ink for the next item you play this turn. Whenever you play an item, you may draw a card. He's got 2 lore points as well. So very cool card. You obviously use it in an item deck, and the Tamatoa deck is probably going to be a good one to use it with. So you ramp up nice and early, drop this card, play lots of cheap items via discounted or just cheap items in general, draw lots of cards, fill up your hand. Yeah, cool card. Works with the Inventor Bell that we saw earlier as well. Just obviously bear in mind that if your opponent removes this before you get to play an item, then it feels pretty bad. But other than that, yeah, like it in an item-based strategy. So 4-drop Merlin, so he's 3 attack, 4 toughness with support and 1 lore point. This card does not do much in all fairness. You can kind of use it with your small characters, but it honestly is pretty slow, so I wouldn't even bother using it. So Mickey Mouse Detective, so part of the ramp package. So whenever you play this character, you may put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. Love this card. Obviously, if you're using a ramp strategy of any kind, you need to be playing 4 copies of this card together with 1 jump ahead, and the ramp mar if you wanted to. But yeah, it's if you're playing a ramp strategy, you need to be playing 4 of this card. Fun fact, this is one of the first promos that you're going to get out of the tournaments, so go to one of your local tournaments and you'll probably win one of these. So Mufasa, he's a 6-drop inkable, 4/6 with 3 lore points, no ability, so he has got 1 more attack than the Maleficent Uninvited but costs 1 more ink, so take that as you will. He is also in the starter deck as well, but he's only a common, but right at the beginning of the game, when everyone hasn't got a lot of cards, he'll be a useful card to ramp into. So 2-drop Phil from Hercules, so he's 3 power, 1 toughness with support and 1 lore point. His 1 toughness unfortunately lets him down. He will get killed by anything literally in the game, and obviously he has to quest to use that support ability, so he's going to be sideways, so probably is not worth using. Robin Hood, Unrivaled Archer, so it's 4/4, 6-drop with Feed the Poor. When you play this character, if your opponent has more cards in their hand than you do, draw a card. During your turn, this card gains evasive. So you generally play this in a ramp deck with blue. You use all your ramp cards to get up to lots of ink very quickly, so your hand size is quite low, and you play this card and draw a card. And very handy against evasives as well, because it means that you can hit them during your turn. This card works very well with A Whole New World, because if you use your character to sing A Whole New World, you both draw 7. You played Robin Hood down, your opponent's going to have 7 cards, you're only going to have 6, so you immediately draw from it. So yeah, nice few combos you can kind of do with it. So 6-drop Scar, Mastermind, so 5 attack, 4 toughness. When you play this character, chosen opposing character gets -5 attack this turn, 2 lore points. Very good combo with Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy, because she has to challenge to use her ability, her 2 damage ability. The new legendary Takar in Steel as well. You can combo it with that, so you can challenge things and your opponent cannot hit it back. So I'd use it with those things. Obviously it's more useful against the bigger characters. If your only opponent's playing small ones, it generally probably isn't worth it. But just bear in mind as well that its toughness stat is not particularly huge, so a lot of things can generally kind of get rid of it quite easy. 2 fire cannons can get rid of it. It just hasn't got the highest toughness stat in the world for a 6-drop. So Tamatoa, so shiny, so it's 5 attack, 8 toughness, and an 8 drop. Whenever you play this character and whenever he quests, you may return an item card from your discard to your hand, and he gains +1 lore for each item card you have in your hand, and he starts with 1 lore point as well. So you'd need to play a dedicated item deck to utilise this card. I'd recommend playing the ramp cards as well to get yourself up to 8, and probably some discard stuff to get those items into the discard. Works very well with the 4-drop Sapphire item that increases his lore points, because you can obviously get the lore point from it being on the board, and also use his ability to give Tamatoa another lore point, so you get to quest for lots. But yeah, I've not seen anyone use an item based kind of deck using Tamatoa and having much success yet, so I hope we do, because it seems like a really fun card to use. So Triton, 7-drop, 5 attack, 9 toughness with 2 lore points, no ability, one of the highest toughness points in the game. So it's good if you're not against someone who can easily remove it, so things like Dragonfire or Let It Go or Hades and Sapphire can easily get rid of it. So if you're not facing against any kind of those decks that can just straight out remove it, your opponent's going to have a really hard time. But it does seem like those sort of decks are the most popular at the moment. It will probably get eaten up by just a simple removal card, so it's not the most reliable thing to put into your deck. Develop Your Brain, 1-drop action card. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put 1 into your hand and other onto the bottom of your deck. So very, very good card for consistency. I play this in all of my blue decks because I want to find my ramp cards nice and early. But late game, it helps you find your more expensive pieces so you can use all your ink effectively. But worst case scenario, just ink it. But like I say, it helps your consistency massively. So yeah, I use 4 copies of it, and I recommend that you do too. So 3-drop uninkable if it's not Baroque. Return an item card from your discard to your hand. So far there's not a huge amount of things to return to your hand that's worth it. There may be in the future using that Tamatoa, and also the 4-drop area we saw right at the beginning of the video. You can kind of utilise them a little bit just to kind of keep using her questing ability. But yeah, so it's okay at the moment, but it's not playable right now. Let It Go, so 5-drop inkable song. The character costs 5, can sing it for free. Put chosen character into its player's inkwell face down and exerted. A fantastic removal card. Obviously bear in mind, similar to the Hades, if you're doing it on a shifted character, you ramp them by 2. But yeah, one of my favourite removal cards because it doesn't send it to the discard, so they can't pick it back up. Yeah, I just really enjoy it. Okay, 1 jump ahead, so 2-drop uninkable. Character who costs 2 or more can sing this song for free. Put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exerted. Like I mentioned, this forms all part of the ramp package, so if you are running a ramp strategy of any kind, use this together with Mickey Mouse Detective, and also Rampmar if you wanted to. But yeah, very, very useful. Recommend playing 4 copies in any ramp deck. So 1-drop work together action card. Chosen character gains support this turn. Really not worth it. It's a -1 in terms of card advantage, so I wouldn't even consider using this card. Support is not useful enough to kind of waste spending a card on. Coconut Basket, it's a 2-drop item. Whenever you play a character, you may remove up to 2 damage from chosen character. If you're playing some form of kind of control deck where you're playing big characters, crashing into your opponent's stuff and then healing them, this card is very useful. I've not seen too many of these strategies about, but they have been effective in the past when we didn't know the full set. But so far, I've not seen it have any kind of competitive use, but that may change. So this is the item that I mentioned to use with Tamatoa. So it's a 4-drop item, Eye of the Fates. So exert it, chosen character gets +1 lore point this turn. So yeah, like I say, use it with Tamatoa because he gets the 1 lore point from having an item on the board, and then he gets 1 extra from using this card. So he can ramp up his lore points nice and quickly, and you don't even have to pay 4 to put it in because you just bring it straight from the discard. So Fishbone Quill, so it's a 3-drop item. You can exert this card to put any card from your hand into your inkwell face down. So this card allows you to ink your non-inkables. So that has quite a unique use for it. But obviously you have to then take your turn 3 off to kind of do so. You're not gaining any kind of card advantage, so you need to kind of refill your hand back up with a whole new world, or from something like Beast's Mirror, because yeah, you're just ramping quickly and you're not gaining any advantage from it. But honestly, I don't use this card because I just choose to run not a crazy amount of non-inkables just for consistency reasons, and I prefer to spend my turn 3 playing Mickey Mouse Detective, just because you then gain a body on board. So 1-drop Magic Golden Flower, banish this item, remove up to 3 damage from chosen character. There's nothing special about this card. It's a worse Coconut Basket in my opinion. So you can probably, not use this one. You could use it with Tamatoa just to keep him nice and healthy because he's a cheap item. Or you can use it with either Belle or Maurice in an item deck, just because it is a nice cheap item that is also inkable. So you've got Scepter of Arundel, so it's a 1-drop item with Exert, chosen character gains support this turn. So at least this card kind of stays on board after you play it. You don't kind of lose a card like that action card previously. But then again, like I say, support is not that helpful. But it is a 1-drop item to use with the previous decks that I have mentioned. Right, that is all of the Sapphire cards in a nutshell. So tomorrow we are moving on to the last video, which is Steel. So I hope you've enjoyed it. So please give us a like, please give us a subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye guys.